Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. John Keir with you, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It is season 4, episode 22. The Pittsburgh Steelers moved to 2-0 following a 17-7 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs at home. You know, a few years ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers made losing in the preseason quite common, but now the last 2 years they were 3-1, and this year they're 2-0. So it is obviously meaningless in terms of the regular season and wins and losses in comparison. But, I mean, winning is certainly nicer than losing in the preseason.
Oh, yeah, of course. And maybe it says something about the backups getting better or something. It's hard to tell, but it could be just that maybe now the Steelers have more depth than they had in the past.
One other thing that's true is that winning can be made a habit, and that's something you definitely would like to see. But at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is injuries are a key concern with the preseason, and there has been, relatively minor injuries, but there's been the Ola Adeni injury, which we now know is a torn meniscus that he recently had surgery for. So I had the very same, or at least a similar injury. I also had a torn meniscus. We don't know exactly what kind of tear it is, but the belief is he'll be back sometime early in the season, whether it's week 1, 2, or 3. So obviously some good news there on that front. And as far as when he comes back, I think I'd be okay with having him wait until week 2 or 3 if necessary.
Oh, yeah, he's not a starting outside linebacker anyway, so it's not like he needs to be rushed back. It actually kind of depends on if Anthony Chickillo is really hurt or not. I think they said Anthony Chickillo is day-to-day, though, so he should be fine. So, yeah, I would totally be down for Ola Adeni to come back week 2 or 3 whenever he feels ready to come back.
There's no need to rush his recovery process along and possibly set him back when he could. He's going to be a backup, but he could be expected to contribute at least a little bit this year. Same goes for Anthony Chickillo. If there is a concern, there's no need to really play him at all this week, and then you can just have him go in the finale if you need to. The other injury, Vance McDonald, he was also listed as day-to-day. Unfortunately, it seemed like we were going to get through a whole preseason and offseason without him being dinged up, but alas, here we are halfway through the preseason, and he's dealing with a minor injury, so let's hope it's nothing too serious. Any other injuries I'm missing here? I'm sure there's a couple I'm missing out on.
Not that I know of. I don't remember many other injuries. If there were, they were minor. Okay,
so obviously positive news on that front. And as far as the game itself goes, we'll get into it in a minute, but just very different in terms of the scoring in the game and just the overall sloppiness. I felt like the week 1 game against the Buccaneers was far more offensively prevalent, and it was just a lot cleaner. This game featured 5 fumbles in total, I believe 5, yeah, and I think there were 4 in the first quarter and a half. So it was really just a very bizarre game, and a lot of sloppy play all around.
Oh, yeah. Yep, all those fumbles, I think 3 were by Pittsburgh. When they were up to 4, 3 were by Pittsburgh, and only 1 was by Kansas City. It was not good at all.
So as a team, the Steelers fumbled 3 times. There was Deontay Johnson, Vance McDonald, or is that Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, Johnson fumbled on special teams.
Oh, that's right. He had a muff punt. Vance McDonald, as we know, had the fumble, and Dante Moncrief fumbled away. And the Chiefs had 4 fumbles, so there were actually 7 fumbles. Because Carlos Hyde had a fumble, Chad Henne had a fumble, and so did Blake Bell, the Chiefs' tight end after a reception on a hit from Marcus Allen. So we'll get into all that. First, a couple news points to get to. The first thing is that, well, I guess there's good news and bad news. Do you want to hear about the good news or the bad news first? What do you think?
Bad news first.
Okay, well, the bad news was, according to a report from Ed Bouchette from The Athletic, yesterday morning being Tuesday morning, the Steelers have not planned to sign defensive tackle Javon Hargrave to a contract extension prior to the start of the regular season. This does differ from the report of Jerry Dulac from the Post-Gazette 2 weeks ago when he said Hargrave was, quote, next at the checkout counter. There has also been no news regarding extensions for Sean Davis or Bud Dupree either. Those last two names I don't think are really surprising, but the Hargrave news is at least a little surprising since it seems like the Steelers aren't really making any moves to try to sign him. I figured they would make an attempt to do so at least.
So why I think Javon Hargrave isn't going to get it is because the Steelers have cap for that. So we're expecting Joe Hayden next, right? And so when Joe Hayden gets his extension, it's basically not going to hurt the cap because of how the extension's going to work. With Javon Hargrave, there's no way around it. His rookie deal is going to be way better than whatever contract extension he gets, so it's going to hurt the cap. So I believe the Steelers have to wait until after the season where they get $22 million off the books from Antonio Brown so that they can do it, where opposed to is with a guy like Joe Hayden who's already on a big contract, extending him is going to probably open up some cap room for this year. I think that's why they have to wait. But again, I just have a bad feeling. I said it like multiple times. I just don't think Javon Hargrave is going to be a Steeler after his contract ends. I have bad feelings about it.
I think they're going to tag him.
Yeah, I think that's the only way that they're going to hold on to him.
Time will tell. But the good news, obviously, is that although there have been no extension talks with those guys, Joe Hayden has been progressing with his talks, and as Aditi Kinkhabwala of NFL Network, she was on 93.7 The Fan yesterday and said that Joe Hayden was building a house in Pittsburgh and that he likes playing on the team. We already knew that he liked playing for the team, but the fact that he's building a house in Pittsburgh suggests that he's going to be getting new money. Now, he's certainly not a poor man by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact that he's now making a decision to build a house, I feel like that's a good sign. You don't build a house for somewhere you're about to leave in a year, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that means that contract extension is coming anytime, and probably like week 1.
So expect that news to be floating on by sometime in the next few days or few weeks. It's on the horizon, so you can take solace in the fact that Joe Hayden is most likely going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler for at least this year and probably another year or 2 or even 3 beyond that. So good news on that front. So the sloppy Week 2 preseason win over the Chiefs that we had talked about, a lot to get to, but let's just kind of start position by position, and then we'll wrap up with some winners and losers. Let's start with the quarterback position, 17-7 victory. Mason Rudolph got the start in this one, and he looked pretty good. Early on, the offense was kind of not looking so good. The routes weren't being run very crisp. Rudolph missed a couple of throws. There were several drops. Rudolph took a sack, but they got in gear in the second quarter, and I really liked what Mason Rudolph had to show in this game. I think he hasn't won the backup battle, but he's certainly the leader in that group right now for the backup quarterback job, and he just needs another solid performance, and I think it's all his.
Yeah, the beginning was pretty rough for the whole offense. I forget what Mason Rudolph started, but his completion percentage wasn't very high at first. But then he came back to end at 10 of 15, so he did pretty good in the end. Like you said, I don't think he won it because he went back to like his normal ways where he was not driving it downfield. His average was 5.1 yards per attempt here compared to Dobbs' 8.6 and Hodges' 9.5. So he wasn't slinging it downfield again, so this is a part of the reason why he didn't just win it. Also, he wasn't able to get a touchdown in this game, which isn't all his fault, but it would have helped his case here. But yeah, Rudolph definitely did way better as time went on. He heated up, so I thought he did pretty well in this game, and he still was probably better than Dobbs in this game, depending on how you look at it. Dobbs got cheated, though.
I think Rudolph was definitely better than Dobbs. There were at least 2, I think maybe 3 drops that hurt Rudolph's overall game. If you look at the stats, his overall yards per attempt would be better if those passes had been caught. I will say that I want to see him push it a little more downfield, but I also didn't feel like he was captain check down today, or at least in that game. I felt like he was moving the ball a little bit, but the one thing with Rudolph that I just noticed is that the ball just doesn't zip out of his arm like it does other quarterbacks, and I want to see, I don't know if that's something that can be corrected or like how you would make your arm a little stronger. I know if you don't have a live arm, it's usually not going to get much better. But that's something that, you don't see a lot of really great quarterbacks with just average arms. And it looks like Rudolph, he's pretty solid and accurate. He's been a much better quarterback when it comes to decision making, and he's even had some decent mobility in the pocket this preseason. But I need to see a little more zip on the football if I want to see this guy starting games in the future. I don't want to act like he hasn't made progress, because he definitely has. He's way better than he was at this point last season, but it's still not a perfect product.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely come far from last year, like I said, but still got more to work on, and all the quarterbacks here really do. Josh Dobbs, I think we kind of know what Josh Dobbs is. He's got that time, he's got that mobility, but he's just not always accurate, and especially his short accuracy. His short accuracy is horrid, but he can really get the ball downfield. He should have had it down in this game. It got taken away from some bad call, some bad reviewing, bad call, bad review, and all that. So Josh Dobbs, I thought, got cheated in this game and stuff, but all the quarterbacks here have some more learning to do.
So Dobbs, you kind of alluded to it. We kind of know what he is. I really haven't seen a whole lot different with him between his play this season or last preseason. He is what he is, like you said. So I want you to rewind the clock back a bit here. When you looked at him pre-draft, what were I remember you said you didn't want the Steelers to take him, but what exactly was your issue with him?
So my issue was the type of quarterback he is. So the same way I didn't like Lamar Jackson is I didn't like Josh Dobbs, because I saw the same exact things. And I'm going to say it right now. I think Dobbs and Lamar Jackson are literally on the same level. I think you could throw Josh Dobbs in the starting Ravens lineup and nothing would change. So just to put it that way, I wasn't about a mobile guy who was inaccurate, because Dobbs' inaccuracy is shown in college. This is something we knew. He got better, surprisingly, because I was so against it. He didn't show any accuracy in the field in college. Now he's kind of got a little bit better of a deep ball, I think, in the NFL. His short accuracy is still bad, like I said, but I just thought he's had a cannon, he had the mobility, but he didn't have the accuracy, and it wasn't what a Steelers quarterback had traditionally looked like. He didn't fit like the mold of like Ben Roethlisberger, where it's just a guy that stands in the pocket and kind of can create extra time by moving around and stuff. But he's more of a take off and go, like Lamar Jackson kind of guy. So I didn't like him for the Steelers, because he didn't fit like what Ben Roethlisberger was like. So really, that's why.
Okay, so the biggest issue, as we know, is his short accuracy and his. Really, there were two plays in particular. One is obviously the interception. That was it's not a bad decision to throw to that guy, but I don't know if you watch the replay. He throws it flat-footed, and you know that throwing flat-footed is just a recipe for disaster. And the receiver, mind you, is not close to or not far from him at all, and it's not even close to the receiver. I think it was Deontay Johnson he was targeting, but he just airmails it. And when you got a guy that close, it's just kind of mind-boggling that you would miss that badly. And then on another play, I forget exactly when this was. I think this was before the interception. It was another short crossing route, and Dobbs stepped back, and it was a guy who I counted, not including literally the distance between them, not including the line of scrimmage. Literally the distance between Dobbs and Xavier Grimble was 9 yards compared to where the ball was when he pulled it back and was getting ready to throw. So 9 yards between them, and Dobbs not only threw it way behind Grimble, he threw like a laser at him. And I know you want to get the ball to him, but Grimble probably would have had a tough time catching it even if Dobbs had got it in the right direction or the right area. When you're that close to the quarterback, it's going to be hard to process quick enough to catch that ball. It's almost going to be just instinct to try to almost protect yourself because of how quickly Dobbs threw that ball. Grimble never would have had the chance to catch it, even if it was thrown on target. I don't know if you remember the play I'm talking about.
I think I do, because wasn't Xavier Grimble blamed for that play, or was that another one of his things where he had a bad bad drop?
Grimble had a bad drop when Rudolph was in the game. This was earlier.
Oh, okay, so no, then I don't remember this one then, actually.
Well, I'll show it to you later, but regardless of the point, I think Dobbs is, I think he's better than what I thought he was going to be, coming out of the draft, but the fact of the matter is I really haven't seen much growth from him from year 2 to year 3. So again, it's really just it's up to Mason Rudolph now, and I think now we can turn our attention to Devlin Hodges, Duck Dynasty, who only threw 4 passes in this game, but he was 2 for 4 for 38 yards and a touchdown. He's kind of gotten himself into the conversation here as the potential number 3 quarterback here. So what did you think about Hodges only throwing 4 passes, but he provided results again? And here we are going into week 3 of the preseason, and we might have another quarterback battle on our hands.
That touchdown was so pretty. He put it right where it needed to be. He threw it right to the right so Deontay Johnson could come down and dive for it. It was such a pretty touchdown. Even though he only completed that and one other pass, Hodges still finished with actually the highest quarterback rating of all 3 quarterbacks in here. And I think he totally can compete. I don't know if calls are still coming in, and kind of what I was thinking was kind of blown out the water because of what happened. I'll get into that in a second. But the thing is, if the Steelers could get a high enough draft pick for Josh Dobbs, where I set it at 6, if the Steelers could get a 6th-round draft pick, I think that, and Devlin Hodges has one more good week, I think you take it. Now, my idea was Dobbs could go and go to the Eagles. This was before the Eagles had signed Josh McCown, because the Eagles had all their quarterbacks hurt. Kessler had a concussion. Sudfeld, I think, broke his wrist. He broke something. And their last guy was like a rookie. I think his name was Thorsten, and they really needed a backup quarterback. So that was my original idea, and then they signed Josh McCown, so that doesn't really make sense anymore. But I think that if the Steelers could get a 6th-round pick, I originally had it as a 5th-round pick too, but it's for quarterback 3 here, and I think we know what Josh Dobbs is. I think Hodges could be some guy that you could develop and maybe see what he can become, and then if this was just a 1-year thing, you could move on. You could get another quarterback 3. It's not like a big deal, assuming Mason Rudolph, because this is the condition. If Mason Rudolph needs to win the quarterback 2 job. If Mason Rudolph doesn't win the quarterback 2 job, this is already over before it starts, because Josh Dobbs has to be the considered number 3 here. Then Devlin Hodges has to challenge him for that, and then the Steelers need to get offered a high enough draft. So this is like the order of things that have to happen. Because I think Josh Dobbs is a good quarterback 3, and I think that at the end of the day they should hold on to him, but if Hodges can just keep having the games like he's having, especially playing in like the late game with all these kind of borderline guys, I think that Hodges should be held on to just to see what he can be, because we know what Josh Dobbs is. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think they could try to keep Hodges on the practice squad?
I think they can, but I just don't like it. I don't like putting a 4th quarterback on the practice squad. It just seems meh. I'm not a big fan of it.
I actually don't think that ball he threw was very good. It was underthrown. He could have thrown that ball in a better spot.
I think he did that on purpose. I think he put it right where Deontay Johnson could dive for it.
If he threw it out in front of him, Johnson wouldn't have had to dive for it. I mean, I'm
but
not.
They were at the end zone.
I'm not saying it was a bad throw. I'm just saying it was a little underthrown, and I don't think it needed to be. But regardless of the point, one other thing I was thinking: do you really think that Josh Dobbs could yield like a pick or something? Because I don't know. I don't know. I guess this goes back to my point last year where I didn't think anyone would trade for him last year, but they ended up keeping him. So I guess we never found out if he was worth anything.
Yeah, but they said they were getting calls about Dobbs last year.
Oh, see, I didn't remember that. Do you think
that's why they were getting calls about Josh Dobbs being traded at the end. Like I remember seeing all those like reports that teams are calling about Josh Dobbs, and we're sitting there wondering why they're not pulling the trigger when Landry Jones is the obvious number 3, and then they kept Dobbs and did not trade him.
So do you think that there will still be teams call? Well, I guess we still need to see what happens these last 2 preseason games, right?
Yeah, that's what's interesting. I'm not sure he has the market anymore. I haven't seen anything this year where people are trying to trade and talk for Dobbs, because we don't even know who was asking. Last year there could have been someone in a bad position that really just needed a quarterback. But yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to wait for these last two preseason games, see if some backup quarterbacks get banged up and stuff, and then maybe there'll be a bigger market.
I heard the Panthers want to get him so that they don't have to deal with him in that last preseason game.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I think Dobbs is 2-0 against him. He's probably going to have to be 3-0 if he wants to keep his job here the way things continue to go. But let me ask you, if you're serious about Devlin Hodges maybe getting a shot at the number 3 quarterback position, let's say you only have 3 guys going next week. Do you sit Dobbs this week and make him play for his job in week 4 like you did last year? And this way you have it go Roethlisberger, Rudolph, and then Hodges in the 3rd game?
Yes, because I still feel like Dobbs is showing what he is. I feel like Dobbs is not going to change. I feel like we know what he is, so he doesn't need to play this week 3. We could just keep building on Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges, because I'm going to assume that they think they're going to let Mason Rudolph try week 3 after Roethlisberger plays, and then I think week 4 Josh Dobbs can play for it. Dobbs is still going to get some playing time in preseason week 3, though.
I think that one way to this could be a way that you could reward Devlin Hodges. Remember, I was saying my biggest complaint last week was we've only seen him against the worst guys. So if you can get a chance to get him in maybe earlier or in this preseason game where better players are playing, it might still be later in the game, but maybe you could theoretically, say Roethlisberger plays a quarter, maybe you have Mason Rudolph play the second quarter, and then maybe you give Hodges the entire second half to kind of show what he can do. Maybe he performs well, maybe he doesn't. I think that would be a nice thing, a nice way to get a really good look once and for all at what Devlin Hodges really is.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect. Let him play the second half, and he wouldn't have to be up against the border guys the entire time. He'd at least get to play in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm. And then depending on how that goes in the last game, you can maybe have Rudolph play maybe a quarter, and then you leave the last quarter or the last 3 quarters up to Dobbs and Hodges and let them fight it out. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I think I'd like to see them go that way, but time will tell. So, okay, running backs. We got a pretty, not extended, but we got a surprising large amount of James Conner. We saw him catch one pass between his legs, kind of a skillful move there. And he also had 6 carries for 28 yards. He didn't run like it was the preseason. He was running just like he normally does, which made me a little nervous, but he looked good. And so did the Steelers' ground game. If you include the runs by Josh Dobbs, or the run by Josh Dobbs, it was 31 carries for 124 yards. So pretty solid game on the ground. And we saw solid performances from Jalen Samuels as well. Trey Edmonds didn't have much running room, neither did Benny Snell. But, again, I thought Trey Edmonds is just a solid pass protector. And Benny Snell did have a tackle on special teams. So kind of a mixed bag from this group, but I definitely don't have anything to complain about right now.
Yeah, I was most happy with Jalen Samuels, because Jalen Samuels continues to prove that he's the number 2 running back. Not that he really had much challenge. Benny Snell was going to be the only one challenging him, but I feel like Benny Snell hasn't really done much yet. Granted, like I said, the first game he wasn't given much running room. In this game, he wasn't given much running room either, but you kind of want to see him create opportunities. He still did, like you said, he got that special teams tackle that Justin Lane forced, I believe it was Marcus Kemp. It might not be Kemp. It might have been McCole Hardman or Michael. I think that's, I forget how it's pronounced. I remember listening to them. It's called the Chiefs rookie's name, and I was like, that's how you pronounce that? But regardless, Lane forced him backwards, and then Benny Snell finished the tackle, so that's pretty good from him. Then we saw Spencer actually get a rush once. It was a pretty solid rush. He rushed once for 19 yards. It's kind of doing what Martavis Bryant used to do. And, the running game in this game was okay. I felt like Jalen Samuels and Connor did the best, and then Malik Williams was given a surprising amount of carries. He had 6 carries, and I don't know, I wasn't expecting that. Benny Snell had 7, as expected. So, but yeah, I'm not overly impressed with the backups. I'm almost a little disappointed in Snell because I've been just like, you know this. I'm a running back hater, so I was never about taking a running back in the 4th round, and especially for a running back 3. And I've just been a little bit disappointed, hoping for a little bit more from him because he was talked up in camp and stuff. But, I mean, his pass protection is pretty good, so I guess I'll give that to him. But, yeah.
I don't really think there's much more to say about the running backs right now, so I think we can just move right into receivers.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, with Devin Bush out due to injury and Ola Adeni recovering from surgery, it was James Washington's time to take the spotlight completely on his own. He shined last week and had another great game, 4 receptions for 78 yards on 5 targets, including a long reception from Josh Dobbs. He had a nice sideline grab on a pass from Mason Rudolph and another couple of good grabs. He's, last preseason he looked good, but I think he looks great right now, and we'll see how it translates. But, it's certainly better than him disappointing in the preseason. All signs pointing to James Washington having a good regular season.
Oh, yeah, Washington really impressed in this game. Again, he had the 4 catches, 78 yards, and just absolute monster in this preseason. Hopefully it translates into the regular season. He did lose some weight and got a little bit faster coming into this year, and so maybe that's what's helping him here, having that better season. Maybe he got a little bit faster and such, but Washington's having a good preseason so far. And then next was Johnson. Johnson got to debut. It was a pretty solid debut. He had that 1 touchdown from Devlin Hodges. He had that other touchdown taken away. That was a touchdown from Josh Dobbs. And he finished with 46 yards, the second most on the team, and the second most catches. So he was pretty impressive in this game. I thought Johnson coming in was good. The one thing I will say is, oh my God, him returning was terrible. Johnson definitely should not be returning this season at all. Because I forget how many returns he was able to get, but I think it was like 3 kick returns. No, it was 3 punt returns, and they were all bad, every single one. And he muffed one. I was just like, all right, this is not meant for Johnson. And for the announcers were talking about how he was like a special teams ace in college. I didn't really know much about Johnson coming out, but he did not look good. It was sort of like how Cameron Sutton was a special teams ace coming out, and it did not translate at all. So, granted, the Steelers don't like defensive players doing that, but regardless, that was my only gripe with Johnson. As on offense, though, Johnson did solid. Johnson did everything you wanted him to. Ryan Switzer didn't get out there a lot. I'm confused on how this team is evaluating Switzer, Rogers, and like Holton and those fringe guys. Spencer's the other guy I was thinking of. And it just feels like they're not getting a lot of, like, I feel like it's hard to say. Like, I wanted to say Rogers and Switzers were the guys with the roster spots right now, but like I don't know what to make of how much they're playing. Ryan Switzer hasn't been playing much. Eli Rogers got a lot more playing time in this game. I felt like he had 3 targets, came down with 2 for 31 yards. But like I don't really know what's happening. I don't remember Spencer really getting much of playing time in this game. His playing time I felt like got cut because Rogers played a little bit more, and he didn't even end up with a target in this game, which is not good for his chance of making the roster. But yeah. And the one last thing, it kind of sucks that Juju played and got targeted 3 times and couldn't come down with one. Not all his fault. One failed past his head. I remember him hopping and being trying to call for pass interference. But yeah, I wish I got to see at least one Juju Smith-Schuster preseason catch before the season started, but I don't think he's going to play after this. But the one last thing I did want to say, Dante Moncrief, that was not good either. Dante Moncrief got on the field for like maybe 10 snaps, and the only catch he had was immediate fumble. So not great. You gotta wonder if the broken finger is bothering him. It's just one catch, but like you do worry about that immediately when your first catch as a Steeler is a fumble. So that really wraps up receivers for me. What do you have to say about the receivers?
Well, I think you covered it pretty much all, but if Deontay Johnson started his career in style with the Steelers, Dante Moncrief would really like a do-over for his. I don't know how that broken finger might have impacted that particular play, but he didn't play after that. He only had 8 snaps, and I want to see him play next week because that's the big test is how he performs with Ben Roethlisberger. Johnson was solid. As far as I'm concerned, he had 2 touchdowns. His routes were crisp. Not really sure again like what to make of the whole like receivers and playing time. Johnny Holton looked like a potential practice squad guy last week with all the playing time he got on special teams and as receiver. He did play on special teams, but I think he only had like 3 snaps as a receiver this week, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Tevin Jones had 1 target in this game. Ryan Switzer, I think, is kind of on the bubble right now. The only times I've seen him on the field as a receiver, he's been running crossing routes. And I know he can do that well, but I guess he's limited as a receiver, as we know, and I think Eli Rogers provides a little more as a receiver, which is partially why we've seen more of him. And as far as the other guys, like Deontay Spencer, I think it's really going to come down to him and Spencer for that last receiver spot, assuming it's not Johnny Holton. And I think it's all going to be all about how they perform as return men. And for whatever reason, Ryan Switzer hasn't gotten any chance to return kicks and punts. At least I don't think he has. And it's been all Deontay Spencer. So I guess the Steelers want to see what they have in Spencer as a returner, and he's looked good as a returner. So it's going to be down to pretty much him and Switzer. That's kind of how I see it. I don't know if that's how you see it.
Yeah, I sort of see it that way. So I sort of see that they're letting Spencer just see what they have in him and trying to work out, because they know what Switzer is, so they're just trying to see if Spencer's going to be better. Yeah, so I sort of see that.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers it. Tight end, besides Vance McDonald being injured, he also had 1 catch and immediately fumbled on it, so you don't want to see that. Xavier Grimble had a nice catch, but also was targeted 2 other times and had a really, really bad drop that just made me pine more and more for another tight end that could be added. And I don't believe Zach Gentry played. Gentry and Christian Scotland-Williamson did not play. They were injured. Kevin Rader had 2 catches for 20 yards, but he had another holding penalty, I think 2 holding penalties in this game, plus another one last week. He's definitely not making this team. Trevor Wood wasn't even targeted once, so we already know who the top guys are, and it's pretty much Zach Gentry versus the rest of the league.
Basically, it's whoever the Steelers bring in, because, like you said, Rader, I said after last game Rader could have been cut with the holding calls and all that, and then he just got 2 more this week. It's just like, I felt like they should cut him, let Mickey Crum try and come in and see what he can do, the new tight end brought in, and then maybe grab another one that's just sitting around and free, so you just test him out, see what's going on until the Steelers trade for one, which would be ideal. Because right now, with all the injuries, because Vance McDonald is being downplayed, but I never trust it. I don't, because when Vance got hurt last season, in the preseason, it was like, oh, he'll be better, and then he missed week 1. I mean, then he came back and wasn't hurt ever again, but he was supposed to be ready for week 1 last year, and then he just wasn't. So now I worry about that, and I'm like, who's going to start? There's going to be Xavier Grimble and Zach Gentry as the number 1 and 2. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible going into week 1. So the Steelers really need to bring in a guy like as soon as possible. Steelers Depot's been talking about. I really like Luke Wilson from the Raiders. I like what he can do, and he's a guy that I've been looking at. Then there's some other guys like I like. What's the Buccaneer? That's because the Buccaneers have O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, and then Hudson. Hudson is the guy I'm looking at. I like Hudson over in Tampa Bay. He had a really good preseason game last week. This past game is what I'm trying to say. So I like him as well to come join the tight end room.
Don't they also have Jordan Leggett?
The Bucs?
I thought they did. Who has Jordan Leggett?
I thought it was the Jets.
I thought he was with the Jets and got claimed by some. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about Bucky. Is Bucky Hodges still around? Someone sign him.
He needs to come back. Bucky Hodges needs to return.
Yeah, Jordan Leggett's with the Buccaneers right now. So
interesting. I didn't even know that.
maybe him or Hudson will get cut, in which case the Steelers could hang on to one of them. Look, I've said since the Steelers drafted Zach Gentry, the Steelers have 2 NFL tight ends on their roster. The fact that one of those guys could make the team doesn't convince me that they're an NFL tight end right now.
Yeah, it's just need. It's just what the Steelers have right now that they'd be able to make the roster.
Yeah, it's really not good right now. So this has to be the prime position that Kevin Colbert is looking to add from. The problem is there's just not a lot of guys right now. So you're going to have to look into someone that maybe gets cut, and you're just picking up someone's scraps and hoping that it could work out. And the problem is you're giving them less than a week to get ready for the regular season. So not ideal. Would have been nice for the Steelers to try to get one during the offseason, but that is a moot point now. Offensive line. Saw a surprising amount of starters on the line. David DeCastro was the only starter that didn't play. The entire left side to Marquise Pouncey, Villanueva, Foster, and Pouncey started. Matt Filer started at right guard instead of right tackle, and Chukwuma Okorafor started at right tackle. The sack he gave up wasn't necessarily his fault, but I thought a pretty solid showing from the starting group, except for Okorafor. I felt like Okorafor is okay, but I haven't seen the growth from him like I've seen from Mason Rudolph in year 2 that I was hoping to see.
Yeah, Chukwuma Okorafor isn't quite ready to be a starter yet. He definitely needs a little bit more development time. He was very raw coming out, so he did look good as a swing tackle last year, but it just seems like he's not ready for a starting job. But like you said, the rest of the line was pretty solid. I want to see better run blocking, though. I feel like the run blocking as a whole hasn't been very good so far in the preseason through like all the lines, like the first team line, the second team line. The run blocking hasn't been very good in my opinion, but it's been inconsistent, I should say, because it has been good, it hasn't been. But regardless, I think the line as a whole performed decently in this game because it was mostly starters. So.
Well, I was going to say when the starters were in, if you look at James Conner and Jalen Samuels' rushing stats, they averaged over 5 yards a carry between the two of them. So the starting line did a good job. It was it's as is the case when you see a lot of second and third teamers who haven't been playing together long. Those numbers aren't going to be as good like Benny Snell whenever he runs behind the line, or Malik Williams. So that's kind of what you're seeing. I liked what I saw last week from Zach Banner. I felt like he was kind of quiet this week. He wasn't as good, but I think he should still make the team. Didn't see a lot from Fred Johnson. I thought Patrick Morris had a good game. Not a whole lot going on other than J.C. Hassenauer is going to be cut. I love my Birmingham Iron players, but Hassenauer played I think less than 5 snaps in this game, so it's just a matter of time for him now.
Yeah, that's a shame. I was hoping that more AS players would catch on. For J.T. Jones first, then we're going to see Hassenauer and Salve leave next, and hopefully not Kelly, but all the AF players are going to get cut, basically.
Well, let's jump to the defensive side then, and let's just talk about Cameron Kelly and the safeties then next. I actually think Kelly is going to be making this team because he played a little bit of slot cornerback. I know he was doing that in practice, and he played a little more safety. I think the way he's been subbing in and out means that he should be making this team, and I liked what I saw from him again. A couple other guys that played well. Terrell Edmonds forced the fumble, and we saw other good performances from other guys, including a nice play by Marcus Allen. What did you think of the safeties in this game?
I thought Marcus Allen kind of came out of nowhere with a much-needed game of being good. He finished with tackles. I felt like he looked good in this game, and he really needed that. Marcus Allen was becoming a guy just people were silent about. People weren't even thinking about because he just wasn't doing anything. Everyone was ready to move on to Cameron Kelly, which he hasn't fixed that because, like you said, Cameron Kelly's been performing well. He has that versatility that Mike Tomlin just came out and said he wants 53 guys that turn into 60 with their versatility. And so he's still got an uphill battle in these last 2 preseason games, but it was a good start for Marcus Allen to make a case as to why he should remain on the roster, if not the practice squad. But regardless, the rest of the safeties, I thought P.J. Locke had a better game this game. I at least saw him a few times, and I saw him make some pretty solid tackles. Still not the best. I don't think he's challenging for a roster spot, but he had an improved game. But the starters were pretty solid, actually. I thought Terrell Edmonds had a very good game while he was playing this week, and then Sean Davis did pretty solid as well. And I guess that's really it for the safeties. I thought that overall safety play was pretty good in this game and better than week one.
I still think that final spot is coming down to Jordan Dangerfield or Marcus Allen, which means although Allen made a nice play, it's going to be about special teams. Who does Danny Smith want to keep?
Yeah, it's going to be Dangerfield as of right now.
Yep, but still 2 weeks to go. All right, let's work our way backwards then. Cornerbacks, I liked what I saw from Artie Burns. He looks like he's playing confident again. Cameron Sutton I thought was solid. I didn't like what I saw from Brian Allen. And Mike Hilton had a nice play but also struggled several other times in the game as well.
Yeah, training camp legend and preseason legend Artie Burns was out and about. He was doing pretty well. You know who I was impressed with? Justin Lane. Justin Lane had a nice bounce-back game. He didn't play with the first team like he did last week, but he showed bounce-back ability. And he drove, like I said earlier on the special teams play, he drove the Chiefs returner back and let Benny Snell finish the tackle for even bigger loss. So I thought Lane had a better game, and PFF agreed as he made PF's his preseason team of the week as the best corner there, along with Mark Allen, actually. Mark Allen and Justin Lee were the only two Steelers represented on PFF's team of the week, but regardless, I'm happy with him. Like you said, though, Brian Allen was bad. Brian Allen just did not look good. His coverage wasn't good. His tackling still isn't good. It is time to end the Brian Allen experiment. It was a fun time, but it's over. We know what he is. Then really the other, the fringe guys, we saw a little bit more of Mathis last week. But Mathis didn't really play this week. I didn't really see much of him in this game. And like you said, Mike Hilton was inconsistent, to say the least, in this game. He has a good play. He has a bad play. I guess that's really all I had to say about the corners.
I don't know what you saw with Mike Hilton on that touchdown he gave up. I went back and watched it. Now, I think partially to blame is the fact that on his third step, he almost starts slipping and almost falls back. It was very subtle. I didn't even see it because he corrects it so quickly. But I think that played a part into why he gave up the touchdown. He did recover and was in solid position, but was looking in the backfield. I don't know if maybe that threw off his timing or something, but the fact of the matter is we have seen inconsistent play from him, like you mentioned. He did force a fumble, although that was a drop snap, and he did have a nice breakup, but I want to see a little more from Mike Hilton. He's still the really devastating blitzer that he always has been, and I'm hoping to see a little more from him next week as well. Let's go back to the linebackers now. The outside guys, the starters, T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree, really shined in this one. Elsewhere, Tuzar Skipper had another sack, and on the inside, Mark Barron looked good, had some good playing time. We saw a lot of Tyler Matakevich again, and Ulysses Gilbert III was solid, didn't put up the same numbers he had last week, but was still good. So a lot to like from the linebackers in this game.
Yeah, Gilbert wasn't as flashy in this game, but he had the tackles and stuff, so he looked like more of a, he looked more conservative in this game. I'll put it that way. He still did pretty well. Just didn't have those flashy numbers like the sacks and stuff. I was happy with Tyler Matakevich's play in this game. I mean, he was dropped into coverage and got wrecked, which I don't really blame him for. He's not that kind of linebacker, but he finished with the most tackles of anyone in this game for the Steelers. So I was happy with Matakevich's play in here as well. And like you said, the starters just really blew it up. Bud Dupree had a really, really good showing with the 2 sacks and stuff. He looked like he was doing really well in this game, which is good. We're hoping for a breakout season in his 5th year, which is it's going to be interesting to see if it took this long to have that real breakout season for Dupree. I think Watt is set for another nasty year, maybe hitting 13 sacks again, if not beating it. So Watt looks good. I was just disappointed that Sutton Smith didn't play. I was really ready to see him, and he's a loser in this game because there's basically no going back at this point. I think his roster spot is lost, and he's just going to be stuck on the practice squad. I don't think there's anything he can do in the last 2 games. I guess it's only been 2 games, but still, he's lost a lot of progress. So he came out of this game a loser, even though he didn't even play. And you just hate to see that Anthony Chicklow got hurt, but it's only minor. And Cesar Skipper was again in. Cesar Skipper's trying to do what Danny did last season and try and prove that he's a fringe guy. And I think Skipper's guaranteed to be on the practice squad. I just don't think there's a roster spot for him, even if he plays out of his mind next 2 weeks. It's just I think he's a practice squad guy, but he's definitely interesting in the future if there's a roster spot available. If he continues next year, how he's doing this year, there could be a roster spot available. Maybe Dupree. Moving on, and I believe Anthony Chicklow is only on a deal as well. If Anthony Chicklow that would open up some room in the linebacker rotation. So interesting for the linebacker position.
As Steelers Depot pointed out, Skipper only played 3 special team snaps, so it's basically practice squad or bust for him. But I like the way things are going for him. Of the 9 quarterback hits the Steelers had in this game, 6 of them came from their top 3 outside linebackers, 2 from TJ Watt, 1 from Cesar Skipper, and 3 from Bud Dupree. So Dupree had 5 plays where he was either hitting the quarterback or bringing him down. And mind you, Dupree played a lot against the starting offensive line of the Chiefs. So again, I think it's just the fact that he's healthy and he hasn't been dealing with some sort of injury throughout the preseason and offseason process, because the only other time he wasn't dealing with that was his rookie year. And obviously, as a rookie, he had a lot to experience and go through. So I think maybe now, assuming he continues to stay healthy, knock on wood, he's going to be a much better player. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be having 15 sacks, but I think we'll see a more consistent player, which really, at the end of the day, isn't that the biggest complaint we have from Dupree?
Yeah, he's not very consistent, and I think my biggest issue is he's not very against the run or anything. He finishes at most with 3 tackles in a game. He might get a sack or so, but I want to see him more involved in stopping the run and stuff, if anything.
Regardless, a really good game from them. Defensive linemen, not a whole lot to note. The starting defensive line, was very good, as you've come to expect. And the reserves, not a whole lot to talk about. Isaiah Buggs was hit and miss, but he did start off really well. And I think Winston Craig had a quarterback hit. There's not a whole lot going on. I like what I saw from Henry Mondeau. I think he can make the practice squad, but I don't think there's a whole lot to report on right here.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same. I felt like after the starters came off the field, the defensive line didn't really too much. Not that they were exactly bad or anything, but just I felt like they weren't flashy. There wasn't no guy that was standing out. That was really good. I was trying to watch for Casey Sayles. I feel like I didn't remember seeing him all too much. So I had him as a player to watch in this game because I was hoping he could make one last shot at the roster, but it just wasn't much there to see. And the defensive line was they were just okay. I felt like they didn't really do all that too bad, but they didn't do all too great either. Inconsistent, I guess is the best way to put it.
Special teams, Matthew Wright kicked the only field goal from 46 yards. He was good. Chris Boswell made both his PATs. No change there in that status for me. Nothing going on with the long snapping. The punters were not very good. Now, I know Jordan Berry finished with an average of 45.7 yards per punt, but he got a lot of those yards on lucky bounces, and I didn't think he was very good. And Ian Berryman was also very bad. He did have 1 punt in the 20, which was nice, but it wasn't as deep as it could have been. It'd be really nice if the Steelers had a good punter. It's been a long time.
Ryan Allen. Regardless, I agree. I thought the punters are just bad, and I think that's what the Steelers accept at this point. I think that's what Danny Smith likes. He likes averageness and below averageness, because 44 yards per punt is a good punt, or whatever he said was. But Ryan Allen's an interesting option. there. He's probably too expensive for a punter, what the Steelers want to bring in, and there's no one dethroning Jordan Berry in my mind. It doesn't matter. The Steelers could bring in a Colquitt brother, trade for him, and probably still let Berry win, because it's just, I don't know, they have like an obsession with Berry, but whatever. That's a story for the other time. The punt returning and kick returning was pretty solid in this game as well, besides Deontay Johnson when he was doing it. I thought Spencer looked good doing it again, though. Johnson, like I said, I ranted about it earlier, but Johnson's just not NFL ready for special teams returning. He looked really bad out there on that part of the game. Then, like you said, the long snapping competition, Trevor Wood isn't even competing. It's just Cameron Canada just doing his thing. And then the kickers they remained perfect. It's interesting. It's really, Boswell has the leg in the race here, and it's not looking like he's going to lose it. Boswell has to have traumatic performance, basically, to lose this job here, and it's not looking like it's going to happen. So looks like Boswell is going to end up the kicker, as we kind of thought.
Yeah, it's funny. Even if Boswell did slip up a little bit now, I feel like Matthew Wright, he doesn't have a strong leg, and it's the same thing as Matt McCrane, which if you didn't keep Matt McCrane, why would you keep Matthew Wright at this point?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, all right, winners and losers. I made a quick list. I had Mason Rudolph for, taking the lead in the backup quarterback job. Tuzar Skipper had another sack. Deontay Johnson, despite his struggles on the returns, he had a really nice showing as a receiver. Deontay Spencer for his punt returning. James Washington for being James Washington. And Bud Dupree and TJ Watt for killing it out there.
Yeah, it's a pretty good list. To add for winners, I think I'd add Tuzar Skipper and Ulysses Gilbert. I felt like the continued showing for them is good for them as well. I felt like this was a winner. I felt like, no, I think you covered it all. I think it was only those two that I wanted to add to the winners.
Man, I had Tuzar Skipper on my list.
Oh, you said Skipper? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm giving you crap. But yeah, I think Gilbert would have been a good as a player that I missed out on. So that's a good addition. For losers, I had Kevin Rader, Brian Allen, Dante Moncrief, Josh Dobbs. Maybe Xavier Grimble. I was upset about that. And then I have other losers, but I'm just talking right now about players that played today or in that game.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, because otherwise Sutton Smith would be there too. I have Benny Snell as well. I'm just not happy with it. I know that there hasn't been the running room, but I want to see like one big run. He had a 7-yard gain in this game, I believe, but I don't know. I'm hoping. I was still been hoping for a little bit more, so I'm a little disappointed. But I think that's the only loser I'd add. I mean, other than I think I'd say all the tight ends were losers. Just any tight end that is on the Steelers roster right now is basically a loser.
And then I had 3 extra losers, which partially equates to that. I have Christian Scotland Williamson, Sutton Smith, both of them for not playing. I think they basically lose out on roster spots. Quite frankly, I think Sutton Smith is playing for a practice squad spot. I'm not even sure you keep him on the practice squad at this point. And last but certainly not least is the pass interference review on Deontay Johnson's touchdown. My Lord, that was horrible. But, we already talked a bit about Smith and Scotland Williamson a bit too, so I mean, I think all that's left to talk about is the pass interference stuff here.
Yeah, the pass interference stuff is garbage, and that's just the best way to put it. It's just, so now we have to define what like a push-off is, because Deontay Johnson slapped his hand against the guy, just like rubbed it against him, and because it might have been a push-off because they didn't have clear and concise evidence that it stays as pass interference because he had his hand swiped against him. Like, that's stupid. I understand that they're following how it's supposed to work because they need clear and concise evidence that it didn't happen. But it's just so stupid. Like, when you slow down everything, it's going to be like, well, what if his finger pushed off a little bit? Like, it's just stupid, man. That touchdown, Dobbs should have had that touchdown. He got cheated, and Johnson should have had his first touchdown there.
So So to review what happened there, Johnson had caught the touchdown. A flag was thrown for offensive pass interference on the push-off. Tomlin was going to challenge it, but because it was inside 2 minutes, there was an automatic booth review, and the review concluded that there was not enough to change the call, which, first of all, is not true at all. That was horrible. I don't know where that's a push-off. The fact that they threw the flag was bad enough, but, I can forgive them for that because they are human. The officials make mistakes. It happens. The whole point of this rule is to fix stuff like that. And if you're going to have a booth review that took, 5 minutes in a preseason game, at least get it right. And they didn't get it right. And it's very, very concerning. I only have hope that they will do something to make minor changes. I don't think they will, but I hope they do, because remember last preseason, the lowering the helmet thing? I completely forgot about it until I heard about it the other day. But remember what a horrible issue that was for the first 2 weeks of the preseason, and then the NFL realized, wow, this is terrible, and then they fixed it. My only hope is that they can do something similar with this.
I don't even know what there is to do. Hopefully they just say, we're going to just call it less. Call offensive pass interference less and stuff. Let them play and review it if you have to. I don't know how to solve this one. This one's interesting and weird.
You know what you could do? Remember what the AAF did with the Sky Judge? They could do that.
They could do the Sky Judge, yeah.
But, that's not going to happen now. Here's another idea. So I didn't realize at the time, but the Nickel Roby-Coleman hit on Tommy Lee Lewis. Roger Goodell was at that game. He technically has the authoritative power to stop that, to basically go back and change that play. I get that it would be huge in precedence or whatnot, but come on, that was the most obvious penalty in league history.
Yeah, and it's changing. You never know what would have happened if it was a Patriots Super Bowl instead. The Rams definitely didn't show up for it anyway.
Yeah, so anyways, we're getting down a different path. Let's I think that pretty much wraps things up for the Steelers-Chiefs game, right?
Yep, I think so.
All right, last two bits of notes. First thing for the Bengals, they get a break here. After offensive guard Christian Westerman had originally left the team on Wednesday and was apparently thinking about retiring, that would have made the Bengals' third different lineman to retire this summer, along with Clint Bowling and Kent Perkins, to go along with the fact that they already lost Jonah Williams, their first-round pick, to a season-ending injury. It's been a rough summer for the Bengals, but they do get a win this time. And even though he hasn't started any games in his 2 seasons, Westerman decided to return to the Bengals today, or yesterday, I believe. And, he's not... he hasn't started any games, but they need... Their offensive line is like the Steelers with tight ends, except their entire offensive line.
Yeah, the only guy they got is Cordy Glenn, and Cordy Glenn's also hurt at the moment with a minor injury, so not good.
What are you talking about? They have the immortal Bobby Hart.
You're right, Bobby Hart, the former New York Giant. Amazing. Played opposite of other former legend Eric Flowers.
I was gonna say,
great.
only better tackle on that team was Eric Flowers.
Exactly.
But in any case, let's transition. One other sad bit of news. We know the Steelers have been grieving over the death of Darryl Drake, another unfortunate death in the NFL family, if you will, this past week. Cedric Benson, the former NFL running back, died on Saturday. He enjoyed an illustrious career with the Texas Longhorns in college, totaling 5,500 rushing yards and over 1,000 yards in every season he played there, and totaled over 6,000 yards with a combined 67 touchdowns. He parlayed that into a solid NFL career, playing 8 years between the Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals, and Green Bay Packers, enjoying most of his success with the Bengals, as Steelers fans might remember, in the late 2000s and early 2010s. His most notable accomplishment was setting a Bengals postseason rushing record with 169 yards in the Bengals' playoff loss to the Jets in the 2010 wildcard round. A sad day. Cedric Benson was 36 and died in a automobile accident. I believe it was a motorcycle accident. So obviously very sad to see. And the other person riding with him was also killed. So just, one of those things that you really hate to see.
Yeah, rest in peace to him and his passenger.
All right. On that note, I think we're all set today, Austin. I think we're good to wrap this one up.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on the Stronger Than Steel podcast. If you have any questions or just want to interact with us, feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our various social media platforms. They can be found on our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. I want to make a quick announcement. We're doing a fantasy football IDP league, so that's individual defensive player instead of team defenses. We did this last year, and we had a giveaway last year. We're not going to be doing one like we did last year, so it's just going to be playing for fun. But if you want to play fantasy football with us, we're totally down to do it. It's a good time. This is this is what it's all about. So feel free to inquire about it. You can email us again at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com or just interact with us. If you're interested, we'll send you the invite and you can play with us. So it sounds like fun to me, and there's no entry fee or anything like that. So just feel free to inquire. So thank you as always for listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with Austin and John. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.